Okay, a new area for me is ultrasonic cleaning. I'm just about to embark on this. Going to do it together. So how we've got here is, this is the tank out of the CF70 Chaly. It's all been painted. It's a very sound tank. But what I was having at high speed, I say high speed, high revs, was the fuel bowl was draining. The fuel lines are new, the filters are new, the taps are new, everything. So I knew that was all sound, so it could only be an obstruction within the tank. And indeed it was. When I was refurbishing the bike, I had a look around with a torch. It all seemed very sound in there. I was quite surprised how sound it was. It had obviously been drained and stored for about 20 years with nothing in, so the plating inside the tank was very good. What I didn't realise was the roof of the tank had gained some condense on the times that it was used, and it was, I say, not heavy pitted, but there was a flaking of the plating within the tank, and some it was just mucky, like a mucky rust coming from the roof, and this was obviously obstructing the very fine gauze within the fuel tap, and also the very small diameter opening into the fuel tap from the tank. So I think that's something like about a 2.5–3 mil, so it is very small. So what I did, I went and purchased some of these products. I bought the whole package, enough to do 2 small tanks such as these. This is a, what size are these? Anyway, that's the size of those, and there is just enough to do 2 tanks. It is on there. This is all off eBay, so there you go. Tank Cure. It promises miracles and had the good review. Now, what I did do prior to doing that, which is a tip for some people, some might like it, some might not, is I used toughened glass from a local glass supplier that had been shattered, and it goes into, I don't know, Rice Krispies, for want of a better expression, not like shards of glass or damaged, you know, the little toughened glass, how it breaks up. Filled the tank inside there and simply shuffled it around and broke some of the surface up on top. Bearing in mind, this is not a heavily pitted tank, okay? I then also ran some of the rust remover, and then ran through the degreaser, making sure everything was out. I've got to say, I wasn't overly impressed with the rust remover for the small amount of rust that was in there. It was in for several hours, and continually shook, exactly as the instructions say. I just expected better. That's not to say it doesn't work. That's not to say I'm comparing this with any other chemical. I've used acids in the past and acid etchers, and you can't even breathe the damn things. This, when you got it on your skin, which you shouldn't, was no more of a feeling than when you get alloy wheel cleaner neat on your hands. That kind of acid, and even to a degree that kind of smell. So yeah, that's what we're saying the acid is. It's not overly oxidizing, and then when I put my finger on the inside of the tank up here, I could get like a brown sludge with bits of corrosion. So yeah, I need to get that tank clean. So what we're going to do, I've gone and bought an ultrasonic cleaner. I've bought quite a big one. I've wanted one for some time. We've bought the proper chemicals, and this is the tank out of the ST70. It's totally, I haven't touched it in any single way. It's straight out the bike. You can see how red it is inside there. We're going to have a look in a second with the endoscope and have a little look round. I'm just about to embark on doing the ST70 up. So this needed doing anyway. So watch the endoscope video. It's coming up in a second. And then we're going to compare the before and afters. We're going to look inside now. That's the outlet for the fuel. That would be the main, because it's a higher stem. quite bad corrosion around there. And there's the main pipe, and that would be the reserve just there. You see there's a lot of corrosion in the bottom of this tank. We're going now towards the front of the bike. We can see all the corrosion on the sides. There's very little plating left there. That there is the top of the tank. It's on the right hand side. And that there is the bottom of the tank. So it is in quite bad condition. Back to the nose of the tank, so that's the front of the bike. And then coming back out, that's the base of the tank. And then back to the outlet for the fuel. For those of you who've watched my poop video of the Chinese speed controller, this is causing me some concern already, so we'll be cutting off whatever crap is on the end of that lead and putting a proper 3-pin plug on. If you want to know about this, watch the one that says poop Chinese speed controller. So I've bought the 22 litre here. I got it for £172, accepted best offer on eBay. Has got a nice amount of weight to it. Do not use this unit when the tank is not to fill the water. That is the fattest cable I've ever seen. That's like my welded cable. Should this be earthed? I don't know. It's got an earth pin there with nothing in it. Obviously that would go to the type that it is, because they have a male on their sockets for the earth that fits into there. Okay, and your live and your neutral, obvious. But yeah, like I say, they would have a pin that fits into there, and those would then go into the socket. Now, I don't know, am I wrong here, but how's that got an earth? Nothing sticks into there. Am I missing something? Does this not need an earth? Is it one of those double insulated items? I don't know. There's no markings that it would be. Anyway, this is not going to get an earth using this adapter. It's impossible. Okay, the lead itself has an earth. There is continuity on the earth of this lead. Okay, the actual item obviously does require an earth, because there you go, earth pin to the earth of there. An earth is required for this machine. Using this adapter will not give you an earth. What I've done as a temporary measure, without chopping the plug off. So we have an earth at the moment. I don't want to start chopping this plug off till we know this thing works, because they ain't going to have it back without one of these plugs on. So at the moment I have created an earth between that and that. So I've filled the solution up. The instructions for the solution said it should run between 25 and 35 centigrade. That's the current temperature. That's the temperature set at the moment. So we're going to set it smack bang in the middle at 30 and turn that on. Mix wise, the part of the instructions on eBay said it should be 8 to 1, and then later on in the instructions it says 12 to 1 without no distinguishing really between the two, yet the bottle said it should be 10 to 1, so I've just mixed it 10 to 1. The heater is near enough at the 30 degrees preset, 28 degrees. It did take quite a long time to get up to that. It took about 25 minutes. It wasn't actually working at the start, staying at 1 degree, and a quick little turn on and off. You could probably see it now. Had quite an influence over the temperature. I don't know why that is. But yeah, we're near enough. We're going to put it on a 20-minute cycle and try this. This is the chemical I'm using in the ultrasonic cleaner. You can get it off eBay and it's around the £30 mark. I'm now confident I've got as much air as I can out the tank. This does have the full 22 litres in it. Some of them on eBay say they are a certain amount of volume, but it's actually volume to the top of the tank. This is a true 22 litre tank in here. That is 22 litres of liquid. So let's turn her on. It's a 20-minute cycle. Let's try this. You can see little like a shoreline or waves of corrosion on top of the tank. Just at first glance, we'll get the endoscope out in a minute, but that was red raw in there, and that is absolutely spotless. You have a rusty film of just grit and stuff on here, so we're going to give this a swill with a bit of water and dry it out and see what it looks like inside. But already that is a remarkable improvement, considering there's no prep prior to put it in this tank, which really you should do. So we'll have a look into there. So this is the ST70 tank that we chucked in the ultrasonic cleaner. We made no preparation. If you was to be treating this tank and sealing it now, we followed no sensible process. You wouldn't get a tank that's 44 years old, drain it and chuck it in an ultrasonic cleaner. The purpose of this part was to see if my new ultrasonic cleaner actually works, if it's any good, and what's its cleaning abilities. We are going to move on with this tank. This is not the finished tank inside. or it's certainly not ready for sealing. I was hoping to make this all one video, but this tank has to be powder coated, which exceeds 150 degrees, which the tank sealer says it can't do. So we have to get this powder coated first, then we have to come back to the sealing of the tank. But what we can do prior to that is some preparation. So in the next part, more a sequel, is we're going to clean the inside of this tank following a more logical process, and treat the ultrasonic cleaner with a bit more respect, and then clean the inside of the tank with this little rig, this little setup we're going to make, which I'm just waiting for parts to come. I'm going to keep it simple, so you too could make one simply, with a little bit of cost involved. We're then going to put it in an ultrasonic cleaner. We're then going to dry it in the oven to stop the rust spots that are in this tank, because basically I've just left it on the side of the bench. And then get it powder coated, bring it back home, last little clean, and treat it. Now, I'm going to take you inside the tank now, bearing in mind it was left to stand a little bit. This is not the finished tank. This is just to see what an ultrasonic cleaner could do from a 44-year-old tank to how it is now, and I am thoroughly satisfied with this. When we prep the tank correctly, it will be perfect. Here we go. So now we're inside the ST70 petrol tank, and you can see a vast improvement. A lot of these rust spots that still remain is because I didn't dry the tank quick enough. Coming back, that's towards the front of the bike, so to speak, the thin bit, and we're coming back now towards the filler. This is the bottom of the tank, and where all the flaky crud was. So this is just after a 20-minute blast, and I think that is absolutely fantastic for an ultrasonic cleaner. That's now along the bottom of the tank. That's towards the nose of the tank there, towards the front of the bike. A lot of the scale that you see is the old zinc plating that still remains. So we're now going back to the CF70 tank. This is where it all started, really. This is after ultrasonic cleaning for 20 minutes. Now, this tank has already been through that 3-part treatment, which I discussed earlier, which I didn't feel really did what it claimed to do in the way of removing rust. So you can see now there's a lot of bare metal in here. The seams are all very good. These are just stain marks as opposed to corrosion marks. The only corrosion that remains is areas like the top of that bolt there. That's new corrosion from me not drying it properly after the ultrasonic cleaning. And a few spots down here. All this is bare metal here. The tank for its age is in very good condition. So what we're going to do now is go back to the treatment. So this is where it all started. This is a CF70 tank. Bike cutting out, silt inside the tank, lots of condense, like little stalactites all inside, and a lot of silt. Cleaned the tank, couldn't work it out, tipped the tank upside down, had a little look around, loads of rust. Bought the cleaner and the rust preventer, degreaser and rust preventer, cleaned the tank out. Didn't really think it did as good as it claimed to do. I'm not saying it's his product, it's just that I expected more than what it was given. I've used rust treatment before and you can't even breathe the stuff, so I was quite surprised at what it didn't do. Bought an ultrasonic cleaner, chucked it in there, really good, cleaned it out lovely. We've mixed the resin, put the resin in, sealed the tank up, rotated it like it says for 20 minutes. We've done it all correctly and left it a week. This is just bits of resin on here I've got to get off. And you can see it's sealed up here, which is to be expected because there was tape across there. It's best not to knock that through. We're going to drill that back through and re-tap the hole. I feel that if you're going to start knocking it, you're going to chip the resin, and it's gonna the petrol's going to get underneath it, so we need to cut it rather than chip it. And it has done a good job. We're going to go inside the tank in a minute. Problems. Okay, so I mixed the resin, let the resin stand, and there's a lot of aeration. Is that going to come out? Oh yes, it is. All this isn't dust. This here, that's bits of newspaper. Those are bits of bubbles in there. I'm only hoping that what's inside here, yes there are some bubbles, I've already had a little look, doesn't mean that the bubble's going to allow the fuel to go underneath here. This has not gone as well as I wanted. The instructions were followed perfectly. In part 2, as I've just referred to on the ST, we are doing much more to improve this process for the other petrol tank. We are going to clean it, making our own little machine. We're going to get bubbles out of resin. There's only so long you can let this stand before you have to chuck it inside here and it sets in here, and I left it for as long as I possibly could, knowing that it would still move. So I'm not sure how you get these bubbles out on their process. We are going to move on from this. I have a process to get these bubbles out. I hope it's going to work, and we have a process for cleaning the other side of the tank. Like I say, that's in the sequel. So we're going to have a little look inside the tank now, see where we are. I'm not overly chuffed, to be fair. I am going to have to monitor this, and hopefully the ST70 tank will come out better. That will be in the next part of the tank. There may be another video in between, but we will have a part 2 on this tank cleaning process, and hopefully a perfect finish with the resin. In the end, I didn't get a chance to save it. I just mixed it all and chucked it in, because the ST70 tank was so far behind. I know the resin's going to go off or something, or it'll have a shelf life, or I don't know. So I just mixed it all and chucked it in. So it was very adequately coated inside, then just let it drip out, rotated it every now and again just to make sure and try and get a bit more bubbles out. So this is quite hard to film inside the CF70 tank because of the sheen now that we have in there from the resin. The reflections that you see just now are actually the camera I'm using. So we can see the air bubbles inside the resin. I just, following the process without specialist gear, I don't see how you can not have those bubbles. This is the very base of the tank. That's the filler. Sorry, the where the fuel tap goes. I mean, it's absolutely spotless. The ultrasonic cleaner did an amazing job of all that there. Well, we can see a lot of bubbles in this. mean, the finish is superb. Look how clean that tank is. And if I take you up towards the rear of the tank, this is towards the rear of the bike. If I take you up to the rear of the bike, that's the rear along the seam line. It's such a lovely finish in there. So like I'm saying, I just hope the fuel isn't going to get through these holes. That's all the way along the ridge now at the top of the tank. That's the wall of the tank on the one side, and there's the wall of the tank on the other side. I think really I'm more impressed with the ultrasonic cleaner. That there is the roof, and you can see like drips of resin that have dried. But the roof of that is absolutely spotless now. There is no corrosion there at all. And yeah, it is quite sealed. But what's bothering me is these little bubbles that you can see. There, we can see a lot of bubbles there. So like I say, I am just hoping that that it has no effect really and the fuel doesn't get underneath. So that's it for this video. This tank is finished and I'm just going to monitor it. If I see fuel getting underneath the resin, I'm going to take the liner back out and do what we're going to do to this tank when I've got some parts coming, to make a little cleaning process and to sort these bubbles out in the resin. So hold tight for part 2 and hopefully we can get this tank spotless, and when it's powder coated it should look absolutely beautiful.